state that as a fact and so on.
Okay. We do have an audience member who wants to contribute, please.
Global warming might more accurately be described as global fever. Just as when you have a fever, you find yourself unable to control the surges of heat and cold in your body, you're chilled and then you're feverish. It increases the peaks and valleys of weather events in, yeah, I said I keep it to 45 seconds, so I'm sorry.
It's hard, isn't it?
No, I stopped.
Thank you. Thank you. So, all right, so let's move on to our next question. I think this one goes to Dan. Question is, how can you assure the young adults of their clean, safe, healthy futures? Dan?
So, honestly, there's no way to absolutely guarantee those kinds of results. But I think as a society, we do want to continue to move forward and be thoughtful in how we regulate the things that we create in the environment that are not natural. While I don't think that Initiative 1631 is the right answer, there is a right answer out there that would be a broader approach that would include everybody and not exempt 23 classes of industry from paying a fee, that would have sort of a shared sacrifice approach rather than this, let's nail a certain group of industry members that will pass that fee on to consumers and ignore the rest.
Thank you. And Rick, same question?
I think you're all aware, within the last week, there was a UN report that came out that talked about the disastrous future we face if something isn't done and something dramatic isn't done very quickly to address this issue of climate change. I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to take steps. I think in this room, just as Dan said, there's no one that would disagree with that. I firmly believe that 1631 is one of those steps that can be taken. Dan and I disagree about the exemptions. I think that even in the case where there are exemptions, there's still responsibilities to do the right thing, to take the right steps. And I think broad-based 1631 is a responsible way to do our part to address this issue.
Thank you. So now we're down to our last question. Usually I try to, some of our questions might be a little bit biased, but I do like to ask the questions of the audience members. So actually, Rick, you get to start with this one. If we don't support Initiative 1631 and we pass on the adverse effects of climate change to our kids and grandkids, are you saying that we should take this selfish, cowardly, and short-sighted action by rejecting Initiative 1631? Rick?
I think we should not be selfish or cowardly. I think 1631 and all initiatives that are crafted to address climate change involve costs and benefits. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there are no costs associated with 1631. I will say that I think 1631 has been crafted to spread the costs out, to do that equitably, to do that fairly, and that the benefits for the state of Washington and for establishing Washington as a leader in this particular area are enormous. And that's why I think 1631 deserves support.
Thank you. Dan, same question?
So the bottom line is there will be impacts on people, real people. And I'm going to probably stray off the path here a little bit, but I wanted to mention to you that a group of citizens that will be impacted more than others are those with lower incomes. And they will, in fact, see the impacts on their gasoline, on their electricity, and on their natural gas or heating oil in their homes more than some other groups of people. The truth is this is a regressive fee that will be converted to increased costs for gasoline, for natural gas, for electricity. And it will have a significant impact on people without the guarantee that we will be addressing climate or carbon emissions. That is the crux of the matter right there. Very little carbon emissions will be resulting from Initiative 600 passing.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes all the questions from our audience members. I want to thank both representatives for joining us and participating in that. And now we go to the summary section where each candidate gets 2 minutes to give a summary on whatever you'd like to address and share concluding thoughts with our audience members. I know, Dan, you started with us, so Rick, would you please, for your 2-minute summary?
Okay, I'd like to thank you all. Thank the Chamber for hosting the event. Thank Dan for presenting his positions on 1631. I go back to where I started on this, and it's the impact of climate change on national defense and national security. It's something that maybe we in our day-to-day lives don't think about. I spent a career concerned about it. Concerned about the impact of rising tides on our military bases. Concerned about the impact of climate change and severe weather in parts of the world that are least prepared to deal with it. I led the coalition in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been racked by climate change, and it adds to the instability, and it adds to the violence, and I saw it when I was there. And so personally I feel moved to do something about it for, as someone mentioned in here, for the future of our kids. I do believe that 1631 is crafted in such a way that it will not be a regressive tax. It's a fee on the largest positions. That's the way the initiative is written. And the other piece of it is that the revenues that come from that fee will go to clean energy initiatives. 75% of those revenues will go to clean energy initiatives. The other 25% go to mitigation of the effects of pollution on our forests, on our water, and that type of thing. So we went through this issue about how that will be administered. I have confidence that the way the initiative is crafted, that those funds, those revenues will be administered appropriately with the oversight of our legislature and our elected representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dan, your 2-minute summary, please.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber for having this forum this morning. I appreciate it very, very much. The opportunity to be with you this morning, although early, was really good. I appreciate that. Rick, I'd like to thank you too for outranking me, but for being a good voice for the pro side. I want to cover something really quick that will just point out to you the unfairness of the initiative and its application. I know of a large food processor who will be impacted by this initiative because they use a lot of natural gas and electricity in their operations, and then they also ship their product to the market following the processing of it. Under the initiatives, a certain group, the largest group of exemptions, were granted to industries that are called energy intensive and trade exposed. This food processor certainly meets that criteria, but yet they don't have an exemption. Now, I'm not arguing that they should have an exemption unless other EITEs or energy intensive trade exposed industries do have that exemption. The fact that they do makes the food processor that I'm thinking about just as qualified in order to have it. This particular food processor exports 40% of their product outside of the U.S. That makes them trade exposed. This particular food processor uses a ton of natural gas and electricity in order to produce their food. That makes them energy intensive. Why did the initiative not afford them the same consideration as it did for the other industries that were given exemptions? In fact, this particular company actually asked to engage the initiative proponents in a conversation about EITE-ism, if you will, and why they should qualify as well. And we didn't even get a response. So I would just close by saying this. This is a highly, deeply flawed measure, and it's unfair in its application. And there is never a good time for a bad solution. So I urge a no vote on 1631. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank both of our representatives for coming out this morning. ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our engineering